Yeah. Hi.
That's Sulu. Bigger dog, but very cute, very mellow, I can see. Super chill out here, just hanging out here. So today I want to talk about 5 things that an inspector should not be the first one to tell you about. And these are things in a home that you need to identify when you first walk through. And number one amongst those is the age of the furnace. Whenever an inspector goes through and says, oh, this furnace is old, and someone tries to renegotiate on one of my listings, I just say no. So you need to know when you first come to the house how old the furnace is. First of all, you can ask me and I'll tell you, but really find the age of a furnace and identifying how old a furnace is extremely simple. There's a dates usually are on there. You can tell if it's high efficiency because there's usually another water line coming off it. And so if you're going out there looking at homes, that's one thing you must identify. Number 2, similarly, age of the hot water tank. On there's going to be a date. There's always these dates, either from installation date, which is an easy one to find, it's usually written on there, or there's also just some serial number dates that shows you when that particular product was made. In both the case of the furnace and hot water tank, just because they're older does not mean they're not going to work for long. We find that some of these, especially in the case of furnaces, some of these older furnaces can last 40, 50, 60 years. They're much better, much more reliable, less efficient, but more reliable than the current versions that are out there. So I wouldn't, oh, look, you gonna play? You gonna play? Oh my God, sorry, I got sidetracked there. So furnace, hot water tank are the first 2 things you need to know about. The third thing you really need to know about is the age of the windows. Windows are extremely expensive. Kind of underrated for how expensive a window is. You know, one window is $1,000 just for a basic window. And even a small townhouse will probably have 10 windows. Bigger homes, you can be looking at up to 50 grand to replace all those windows, especially as they get some fancy windows in there. But again, you need to be able to identify how old the windows are. Just by looking at them, you can usually tell, you know, if it's a 1980s home, they're single pane windows, you know those are original windows. If it's a 2000 home and they're vinyl, those could be original windows, and you can usually find a date on the inside in between the 2 panes. A home like 2000, or a home that's built in the year 2000, it could be double pane windows. Sorry, Sulu. So those are the first 3 things. The fourth thing is the piping and Poly-B in particular. Poly-B is this gray piping installed in the 80s and 90s that was known now known after the fact to be photosensitive, so it was left out in the lights and the sun could degrade, now it can start to leak. And insurers hate them. I don't think most homes it's not really a big deal if it has it right now. If they haven't leaked, they probably are not going to. But insurers hate it, so you need to identify Poly-B. If you can't do that, like I said, it's super easy. Just great piping. The 5th final thing would be the age of the electrical panel. Again, looking at a panel, you can kind of tell, if it's a 1960s home and it's a really small looking panel, that's probably original. If it's 2020 home, the panel's fine. So those are the 5 major things that you need to be able to identify. They're big ticket items, and you need to know if you need to replace those before the inspector goes through. Your offer needs to consider those things. Now, one thing of all this I'll say, this is a bonus one, the one that you cannot tell, I shouldn't say you shouldn't even try, but is the age of the roof. This is the one that tricks me up the most. It actually tricks inspectors the most, I find too. The age of the roof is really hard to tell. You can ask the seller if they know, oftentimes they don't. And it's the one thing I'd consider getting an expert up there, getting an actual roof up there to look around and say, how old is this roof? What's the condition of it? Roofs are expensive. And I would say they are probably the item that I've had the most amount of buyers have issues with, even when they had an inspection done, even the inspector said the roof is fine. All right, any questions on all this, let me know. Talk to you all soon.